Welcome to My Pride, Your Pride. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or totally out now as you know me. My apologies for the delay. There's been a slight technical glitch. So today we are starting a series of conversations with people from the LGBTQ plus community who are making a real difference. During Pride Month, we will highlight stories of those who are real change makers. So today's guest is the incredible Polly Shute, co-founder of UK's first wellness festival designed for queer, questioning and curious women and those who are non-binary. We will be delving deep into the outdoor festival scene in the UK, the reason to start a festival exclusively for queer women and those who are non-binary, the key headliners for this year, and what should those who attend look forward to at the festival. So let me introduce you to Polly. Polly has spent the last 10 years working on LGBTQI events, including being on the board of Pride in London, wow, up until 2018, and a consultant for Diva Media Group. A former marketing and fundraising director working within the commercial and not-for-profit sector, Polly is currently a partnership and inclusion consultant. Outside work, Polly loves running, hiking, walking a dog, and a cat, of course, who you can't walk, and cooking up a storm in the kitchen. Welcome, Polly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you, Raga.
Thank you. Now, first of all, you know that I have huge admiration and respect for you, so I need to say that to you on record. And I consider you one of the change makers in the community, and I have been following your work for a long time. But what I'm curious to understand, and this is how I want to start, is why would someone who has had a successful professional life can just sit and relax and retire, start something at this time and at this age, and something so wild and so big? So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Some days I do think it myself. I guess when it comes to being gay, I was a bit of a late developer. So I came out at 41 years old. And I know we've discussed this before because you had a similar experience. And I think one of the reasons that I came out later was because I didn't see a lot of other lesbians like me. I didn't see a lot of people that I could relate to. And I certainly didn't see a lot of events that I could go to. And it was during my time at Pride in London, I was there from 2013 to 2018, that although I love Pride, and I do absolutely love Prides, and I think they play a key role in society, and especially for the LGBT community. But what I noticed about them is that they were very male dominated, and a lot of the content was very male dominated. It was very focused on being in crowded spaces, in cities, and a big focus on alcohol. And even before COVID came along and we all started thinking differently about life, even before then, I was thinking there's got to be a space where there's more space, it's not as crowded, and where it doesn't revolve around getting drunk, but just people making kind of key connections with each other. So it was during lockdown, really, that I decided that rather than just moan about there not being enough spaces for women, I'd do something about it. And so that's why, yeah, you're right. At the grand old age of 55, I've started running a festival with my business partner, Becky French. We launched it last year. Some said we were mad because it was just after COVID, but it was really successful. And literally, we were thinking about doing a kind of Glastonbury model and having it every 2 years. But the demand was such that we didn't feel we had a choice. Really, but to run it again. So we've got literally in a week's time, the 9th to the 12th of June, we've got our second year. So yeah, it was just because I kind of feel that I come from a position of privilege after being on the board of Pride. I know a lot of people, I have a reasonable amount of connections, that I thought it's important to create, to be what I want to see, if you see what I mean, and to create something for people that struggle and I hate to say that women are a minority community, because we shouldn't be, but we do feel like a minority community in the LGBTQ world a lot, and are often forgotten, invisible, and find events don't always relate to us. So yeah, that's my story.
I'm going to say a cliched phrase, be the change you want to see in the world, because a lot of us say that, but very few of us act on it, right? So for me, that's why I said change maker is the word that I attached to you. And yesterday you mentioned something about that we are creating a movement. And I think that's it. That was what I think you're doing. You're creating a movement. And I'm saying actually you're curating a
Curate.
movement.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah, because at this, I mean, I was just thinking about it yesterday myself. I'm setting up a business with you, as you know. We're setting up
Yeah,
outreach speakers, which itself is daunting, but it's
yeah,
all can be managed online or through phone calls. Whereas in your case, the space that you have brought yourself into, it's physical space.
yeah.
Tell me more about it. Why did you think of doing this physical space event, outdoor event, and why in where?
Well, I guess during COVID, I was doing some work with Diva, and one of the things that we did at Diva, just as COVID hit in about March, is we opened up an online community. It was called Diva Community. It was a Facebook community because we realised women would be struggling because a lot of them maybe live alone. They don't have a lot. I mean, you are statistically, if you're queer, whether you're male or female, more likely to live on your own after 50. And we wanted to kind of create a community where they could connect with others and just talk about some of the struggles that they might be going through. And that was before we even knew how long COVID was going to last. And it was through listening to people on there, especially as COVID went on, and they said, look, we may not have been out as much as we did before, but we want to connect with others. We really miss that connection with other people. And lots of people were making kind of resolutions about, I'm no longer going to stay in, I'm going to get out, I want to meet new people, I want to experience new things. It's just a shame there isn't anything for us. And at the same time, I realized an existing festival called Elfest, which has been going on for 10 years. The woman who'd been running that, thanklessly for 10 years, had decided to close it down. And I thought, we can't have nothing. So I decided to, with Becky, I met Becky, we had a conversation. She wanted to do something that was very much along the lines of Pride in the Country. So something that was much more focused on being an outdoor pride, and I wanted to do something that was much more focused around wellness. So we kind of combined the two ideas. So yes, it's about the fact that although I absolutely understand that COVID has meant there's much more opportunities for virtual connections like this, that need for people to want to physically meet, physically connect with people, and physically experience things together has, if anything, got stronger.
Sure. But curating something like this, like it's a huge, huge, huge task and a challenge, right? Especially with women and especially with lesbian women.
Yeah.
Because we hardly go out. We are known not to go out and spend, right? So how did you even think about making it so exclusive? I mean, I just really want to delve into that part of it.
Well, I guess when I'd been at Pride, what I'd realised is that there's so few spaces that we can go that aren't designed for us. So most things they will say designed for the whole community. But once you start getting to 50% gay men, and this is nothing against gay men, I love gay men, but suddenly it all changes. Once you get to 50% gay men, it becomes a space that perhaps isn't what it should be for queer women. And I'd put on some events during when I was at Pride, and what I've noticed is as soon as you start saying an event is for lesbians, the men are less likely to come. And it was just really about how you can get the women to come, because so many of us feel that a lot of spaces aren't for us. We've got so used to just saying, well, I don't want to go to it anymore. So I guess I took a bit of a leap of faith, or Becky and I took a bit of a leap of faith and said, if we build it and we start slow and we slowly build it up, that it might come. And we did a pilot weekend in September 2021 at the site that we're going to, and it was more sort of 30 people, and we were glamping rather than camping and staying in a youth hostel. And the feedback from that was amazing, and everybody said, you've got to do this, Paul, you've got to do it. So yeah, we took the chance, and we started small. Last year we had about I would say about 350 to 400 people, and this year we're looking at more like 650 to 700 people. So it's grown, but not, lots of other festivals are easily 2,000 people each. So it's grown, but not to an extent where it's unmanageable. I say that because the next one's happening, but it feels that we've grown in the right way. And we also follow an existing festival. So a lot of the infrastructure that would normally really worry you, like toilets, food vendors, having the right electricity supply, is already there. So we kind of make sure that some of the issues that you'd have if you just went onto a complete field don't have to trouble us as much. We pay more for that, but that just means that we don't have to worry about some of those infrastructure things that otherwise would be a real headache.
So had you previously experienced any of the festivals yourself, the outdoor festivals?
I've been to festivals, probably not that much recently, but I've been to Glastonbury. I've been to other music festivals, but no, I hadn't. I wouldn't say I was a massive festival goer, but I think we had a very clear vision of what we wanted to create. And when we did research with women, what they said is we don't just want a music festival, because that's quite. We don't want to just sit and listen to music or listen to comedy, because that doesn't feel very interactive. We want something where during the day there's lots of different workshops, lots of other things happening, so we can really connect with people. And actually, one of the big stats we saw last year is almost, I think it was about 37% of the people who came, according to our research, came solo. That doesn't necessarily mean they're single. Some of them came on their own because their partner wasn't interested in these type of activities, but they came solo and they loved it, because doing the activities gave them an opportunity to properly connect with people. And we did a solo meetup on the Friday night and on the Saturday night, but we almost didn't need it on the Saturday night because people had already made friends, connected. So I think, as well as being a festival that's focused on wellness and experience, it's definitely a festival that's focused on connecting a community that by and large feels that sometimes they can feel very disconnected with very few events and permanent spaces for them.
Sure, sure. So in terms of your challenges, and I know you must be getting asked this question quite a bit, but I'm more interested in understanding, was the challenge getting people together? Or was it the bigger challenge getting content and getting headliners, for instance, because you're new?
Um, Two answers to that, I guess. In terms of getting content, it wasn't a challenge because we had so many people that loved the idea of the festival. They wanted to come along and do content. And, we're a startup. We don't have huge budget. So a lot of the people come, we give them free tickets, and we cover their expenses, and some of them perform just for that because actually they want to be here. So the deal is, if we give them a couple of free tickets, they're so excited to come to a festival like this, to get the free tickets, and that they just have to put on a workshop, or they share what they're doing. They wanted to do it, and there was also this real sense of, we know what you're doing and we know what you're trying to achieve, so we want to help and support in our way. So and also, I think people were less worried about headline acts. I think even this year, when we've had some really big names, so we've got Joanne Harris, who wrote, who's a kind of award-winning author who wrote the book Chocolat. We've got Heather Peace, who's a firm favourite with queer women. Although they have helped our social media presence and we have sold tickets via it, I think the main reason people want to come, and this came out strongly in our research, was just to be with like-minded others, and just because this was an event where there's nowhere else in the UK where you're going to get sort of 600 queer women in a field, to be honest. So I think those were the main reasons. And even though the acts are important, it's not names. They just want to do things. So they want to hear some good musicians. They want to do some yoga with someone who knows what they're doing, but they don't have to be, world-selling names. Does that? If that's, I guess that's that part of it. So that worried us less. The kind of logistics of it, like putting it on, especially when it's in Wales and we live in London,
Yes.
that worried me more. And just also the kind of what's been really difficult, especially this year, is just how costs have gone up as a result of Brexit, as a result of fuel prices going up. Everything has gone up once we decided our ticket price. So that's been challenging. But the one thing that's been really helpful to me is we managed to get a 3-year grant from the Welsh Government. And
Brilliant.
that has been our lifeline, to be honest. And this year we've got sponsorship from OVO Energy, and we're seeing more and more interest from sponsors and partners who, again, want to find a different way and a more authentic way to connect with the community, rather than just, rainbowing up their logo or branding something that seems very obvious, like London, exactly. Like Pride in London.
Exactly. Act, not perform, isn't it?
Mm.
And so what was that one biggest challenge that you faced in year one that you learned from and you are now managing in year two?
I think That's a really good question. I'm trying to think because there's so many different ones. I think probably the biggest challenge that we've learned from in year 2 was trying to plan things further in advance, especially around everything really. So I think there's a lot of tasks that you have to do to make a festival happen, but if you plan them throughout the year and you spread them throughout the year, they become a lot more manageable than leaving them until the last minute. So you kind of start the sales pretty much after the first one. Wow. Maybe a month, you have a month to kind of reassess prices, then you start. And then it was just really starting everything a lot earlier. And we haven't quite got that right because we had some new curators come on board. But I think the biggest lesson we learned is you've got to start early. You've got to split all the tasks up over that year. And you've got to work out where you can bring volunteers in or where you learn stuff yourself. So I've learned so much about, if someone had told me 3 years ago, I'd be sending out emails and I'd be editing websites and even in some cases learning how to use code, I would never have believed them. So it's working out, I guess it's the two things really: planning well in advance and spreading your tasks over the year, and then working out what the things that you can learn to do and learning them, and which things can you not do, and you just need to accept that you have to pay an expert to come in.
Sure. People management, Polly, as per me, is one of the most difficult things to do. Especially when you have 300, 400, 500, 600 in your case, people together. Humans are difficult. We all have different needs. So how do you manage not just the physical needs? I know it's also a wellness festival. Also the emotional needs. Women have physical needs. We get a period, we are menopausal, we have so many things that can go wrong, right, for us. So how are you taking care of all those aspects?
So a few things. So just on the physical ones, we follow an existing festival and we make sure it's fairly an accessible site. So it's very difficult to make a campsite and a festival site completely accessible, but we do work on a site that's flat and level so people can get around in a wheelchair. Secondly, and I learned this when I used to work in the pub industry, the thing that women care most about, it was always number one in the pub sector, and I think it is at festivals, is good toilets. So this year we've invested in having better toilets. Last year we learned that women go through more toilet rolls than men do, which seems obvious, but we hadn't thought it. There's a really great company who do biodegradable period products called Here We Flow, and they have given us free product to have. So we make sure that we have better facilities around toilets, showers, washing, because we know that, I know that sounds like a stereotype, but it's actually true. It matters more to women. We make sure that we've got the right food vendors, which include people that are gluten-free and vegan. We make sure that we have a safe space tent, even in this beautiful setting where there's lots of spaces you can just go off. We have a designated safe space tent where if people are feeling overwhelmed, they can just go and sit in there on their own. And it will have cushions in there and a blanket so they can just escape from everything. We have lots of volunteers. And I think what we also found is people want to look after each other. So one of the things that was really lovely about this festival is when people started arriving and some people were not campers and didn't really know how to put tents up, other women were just coming over and saying, I'll help.
Wow.
So I think as a community of women, we're so used to not having things, and we're also so used to that moment, which I'm sure you know, Raga, when you walk into a room for the first time as a queer woman and you don't know anyone, that you have empathy with other people for what that feels like. So when people were turning up on their own or when they were getting a bit emotional, other people wanted to help them. So it was a real community feel. And one of the things we're proudest of is that it is a festival for anyone who identifies as a woman, and lots of trans women. We've got quite a few trans women that came to the festival, one of whom, it was her first time ever coming out as a trans woman, and she wanted to experiment somewhere before she went and told even her children, and she's coming back this year. So, and she found it, she just actually came up to me, and somebody else came up to me, which is just lovely, and gave me a hug and said, thank you for creating a space where we feel safe and we feel supported. And we don't, because it's in the middle of nowhere, we don't feel that somebody's going to come in and challenge our identity. And to me, out of all the things that happened, creating that safe space and that supportive space and that fun space was probably the thing that we took away that was the most important.
Brilliant. But Polly, when you create safe spaces in today's time, the LGBTQ community is not safe at all, particularly
Yeah,
as you know what's happening with the trans community.
yeah,
And every time something is advertised, I always worry is, are we going to get attacked? Are we going to get
yeah.
targeted? So how do you manage that kind of security, knowing that it's all out there?
So I think we're lucky where it is. So it's in a tiny village called Loreni that has 250 inhabitants, and the nearest train station is 8 miles away. So we don't. She said, and I don't know. I'm going to touch wood now. We didn't get any hassle last year from people who came to disrupt it, because it's quite a long way to come to disrupt something, and we're tiny, compared to a pride, where you can get a lot of publicity because there's already going to be media and press there. We're not that. If we're lucky, we might get some media and press come along on the day, but it's not the kind of event that an activist who doesn't agree with the trans community is going to target, because it's going to cost them a lot of money to come and get a ticket. As soon as they do it, we're going to throw them off, and they're not going to get any publicity. So I think the site we chose, and we were very specific about wanting to choose somewhere that was safe, I think lends itself to that. So I think we've created a really safe space by default. And actually, what's really interesting, this is a tiny village in Loreni, called Loreni in Wales. The community in Loreni have been so supportive, because we have to get permission to host it there. And I told a story on LinkedIn the other day about the WI coming along to the community session we had to run before the festival, and they were so supportive. And these are women that are 60, 70, that have lived in the village all their life, that probably have never met anybody trans, and they just supported in the best way possible. And it really taught me a lesson that sometimes, you can get caught up in the media that you see, Raga, that the older community or people that come from more traditional backgrounds don't like the trans community. But actually, what we found in one of the smallest villages in Wales is everyone was super supportive of being who you wanted to be.
Amazing. I agree with you. I've had similar experiences as well. The older people are not close to the idea as much as we are made to believe by the media. When you manage a festival like this, again, I say, like, so many people around, while there is safe places, security looked after, you also receive a lot of complaints, I'm sure. How do you
Yeah.
manage and handle those complaints?
I think you have to we've developed a bit of a thick skin and try not to please everybody. So I think when we first started, you try and keep everybody happy. So I run this with Becky, who's my business partner, and she comes from much more of an operational background than me. So she's much better at saying that's just the way it is and tough. Whereas I'm a pleaser. So I want to kind of make people happy. So I think two things really. You've got to be really clear about the rules at the outset, and you've got to do as much as you can to make things accessible, to make sure people are aware of things. But you are always going to get complaints. You're always going to get people who aren't as happy. And as long as you've done things with good intent, as long as you've tried hard, that's all you can do. And that's kind of our attitude. So, for example, we get people saying, can't you have more fresh food vendors? Can't you have people doing salad bowls and fruits and smoothies? And we're just like, well, no, because that kind of stuff, when you're in a field in the middle of nowhere, is incredibly difficult to keep cold. It's incredibly expensive, and we're just not in that position yet. So we just tell people up front we won't be able to do that. And we have a small amount of vendors, and they'll be the kind of vendors you would expect to get at a festival. Now, that is preempting the fact that some people are going to come up and say, your wellness festival, you should have smoothies and Buddha bowls and salad bars. But I think you just have to preempt those conversations and say, we have to work with the traders who are going to shift volume of food, otherwise they won't bother coming. And
Sure.
it's not those guys.
Sure. So at the festival, at the space that you actually have traders who trade their. So the meal setup is from the traders.
Yeah, we have a cafe in the morning that's open from 7 o'clock on the campsite that people can come to, which I actually run, to get breakfast and coffee and tea. And we also serve hot water if people bring their own tea bags. Then we have sort of 5 or 6 traders that then some of them open at 10, some of them open at 1, that start serving food. But we're lucky that because we're in a village, there's also a village shop that's open, and there's a pub in the village. And So yeah, we do have as much. We do try and cater as much as we can for different types of tolerances that people have around food. But at the end of the day, you know, it's up to people. People are big. You know, we're dealing with grown-ups. We don't have children at the festival, so it's up to you to manage bringing what you need. Or, you know, for those 3 days, you may not. You may be a salad eater to accept that there's other food alternatives that you're going to eat for those 3 days.
And I heard you say something about sober. So is it just sober or is alcohol
No.
allowed?
We do have alcohol. So
Yeah, yeah.
when I say we don't want it to be like a Pride, I mean that kind. When I've been to Pride, there feels a real pressure to get drunk. It feels like
Yeah.
everyone's drinking and you're left out if you're not. And all the bars are very focused on cocktails and pictures and 2-for-1 deals, and it just feels a very drink orientated environment. So we have bars that sell alcohol free products as well as alcohol, and we do sell a lot of alcohol products that, you know, and I will probably end up at one of the evenings having a glass of wine or a bottle of beer. But we also make sure we've got lots of alternatives because it is a wellness festival, and a
Yes.
lot of people who are coming want to make the most of their days. So they might want to have one alcoholic drink, but the next morning, if they're getting up to do a yoga session at 8 o'clock, they don't want to waste their time with a hangover. They want to make the most of the experience. So although people do have drinks, and I'm glad they do because that's a profit-making area for us at the bar, we also recognise that there's other people that probably want to, want to have maybe just 1 or 2 drinks. And there's a lot of people who are what I would call sober curious. So they might never have had or tried some alcohol-free drinks before. When they come along here, it gives them the opportunity, as well as trying new experiences on workshops and other things. They can try different types of food. They can try different types of drinks that they probably might have said, that's not for me. So when we had our Indian street food traders, they did gluten-free and vegan food. And honestly, the food was amazing. And loads of people who were meat eaters were going, I'm converted. I would never have normally tried this, but it is stunning food.
I heard you had dosa, right? The dosa
Did have
stall.
dosa,
Yeah, that's just amazing. I mean, next year I put my hand up to come and make dosas for you.
yeah.
But I want free ticket. No, but coming back to this, you're talking about you don't have children, right, there at the site. So what is the age limit and what are the demographics? What do you
So
expect?
we thought a lot about having children, and we did quite a bit of research to ask people what they wanted. And this was particularly, I guess, given the context post-COVID. And we got mixed responses, but a lot of people said, look, it's been a really hard few years for us. And whether I'm a partner or whether I'm a parent or whether I care for my parents, which a lot of people who are slightly older in the community do, they've said, this is my weekend and I want to come along and not have to worry about my kids having a good time. I want to just focus on me and my own experiences and my own holistic wellness. So that's why we chose not to have children, because and it's over 18s, is because of that. And also from a pure, I guess, commercial point of view, if you have children and you want to put on activities for them, it's incredibly difficult, as you'll know as a mum, Raga, to have activities that cater from 6 months old to 18 without spending an awful lot of money. And kids get bored very quickly. And if kids are bored, they moan to their parents, and then you can see the cycle. So what we said is that we're not going to try and do things that we don't know how to do at the moment. So we're going to focus it really just around adults coming, and we'll see what we do. And we'll keep monitoring that. But our view is at the moment that there need to be spaces where, as queer women, we can feel like queer women and meet other queer women and be ourselves as a person, not a mother and not even a partner. So a lot of people come without their partners because they say they're not into the same things as me, but I really want to come to this. All the partners will come and they'll do different activities during the day because one of them will say, I love water sports, and the other one will say, I don't. So I think this is very much about connecting with yourself, connecting with others, and connecting with the outdoors, and being yourself as a person, not the role you might have at home.
Sure. I mean, I've been through your website a few hundred times actually, and you've got so many activities I mean, something for everyone, I think. So do you want to talk about 2 or 3 of the activities before we
so I guess the ones, so last year, I'll talk about the ones that were really popular last year and some of the new things we brought on because people have asked for them. So the ones that were really popular last year were the walks and the hikes. So, and that it surprised me at the time, but then when I thought about it, it didn't, because one, they're quite accessible to people and it's absolutely beautiful where we are. It's in the Pembrokeshire countryside. But secondly, walking is quite a nice way to meet someone without having to kind of stare at them face to face. It's quite a non-intimidating way of meeting a group of people and finding things to talk about when you're on the walks. So the walks were packed last year and we had waiting lists for them. So we've got more walks happening across the weekends. I think we've got pretty much 2 every day, and in some cases 3. We've got also we've got someone coming that's teaching navigation skills and then doing a walk afterwards. And we've got a history walk where someone from someone in the local community is taking people out and telling them a bit about the history of where we are. So I think walks, just because it's a beautiful space and a lot of people come here from London, it's that those go well. The silent disco that we do in the evening goes really well. So we turn off the music at 10:30 and we switch to a silent disco, mainly out of respect for the villagers, actually. But and I was worried about it, but oh my God, people loved it. So last year we had people absolutely who'd never been to a silent disco before loving it. And part of that is, I think what it allows you to do is have complete freedom of movement. And I don't know if you've ever done dance therapy, but if you're dancing without caring because no one's watching how you dance to a song, it's very liberating. So that went really well. So we're repeating that. We have silent disco under the stars with 3 different tracks you can listen to 2 nights running. And I guess what have we got that's new this year? So we've done more activities that focus on health and well-being and wellness. We've got someone who's coming and having a real conversation around periods, which you wouldn't get normally elsewhere. And someone, the amazing Florence Schechter, who runs the Vagina Museum in London, coming to talk about the vulva and the vagina, which again are subjects that other prides would probably be a bit nervous around talking about, depending on who was coming. But that seems to, those kind of events are going down really well. And then I couldn't leave without saying wild swimming. So we did wild swimming last year because we're on the bank of the Cleddau estuary, and we're working with the amazing and aptly named Blue Tits Wild Swimmers, and who actually started in Pembrokeshire, and they're doing the wild swimming. And this year the demand for the wild swimming has gone nuts. So we're expecting over the 2 days 128 people to be swimming. And some of them will never have swum before, never have done cold water therapy. And I know what happened last year when people went in that water, and cold water therapy is so good for you. They came out and it was just quite a magical experience for them.
I mean, everything sounds so brilliant. I'm so now feeling worse and worse that I won't be there next year. No, but I'm going to have just very few questions. I'm mindful of the time. In your when we talk about your wellness festival, it says UK's first wellness festival designed for queer, questioning and curious women. And I was curious about that. So what does that mean?
Yeah, we played around with the branding a few times, actually. So we were very keen to make sure that it's open to everybody. So when we said queer, you and I both know that's a word that kind of encompasses the whole LGBT community. We also wanted to make it a bit more relevant, so to younger people. So that's why we use the word queer. And we do change it from time to time. Every so often we'd say it's for lesbian, bi, trans and queer women, but we did that. The questioning was for people. Last year we had a lot of women that came that were just contemplating coming out, as I talked about the trans women. So we had people that felt, no one's going to see me here. I'm not going to be photographed or seen like I might be at a pride. It feels like a much safer space for me to come and just see how I feel, And I have a lot of empathy with that as someone who went to Pride in London as part of my coming out journey. So that's the kind of questioning. And then curious is just, we are open to everybody. So we have got some men that come. And people that just say, do you know what, I want to know more about this community. And we have straight women that come as well, who, I say straight's a bad word, sorry, heterosexual women that come as well, who just either are supportive or, to be honest, Raga, they just love the idea of being in a space that's female orientated. One of the facts that I found out when I was researching this festival is 40% of women under 40 have been sexually assaulted at a festival. So a lot of women who love going to festivals want to find spaces that maybe aren't as male dominated. And also a lot of them said to me, I want to go swimming, I want to do yoga, but I'm really body conscious. And when there's a man around, sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable, or I feel judged. I mean, I used to do park run a lot. And the amount of times women say when they go on park run, and this is nothing, I come across as anti-man and I'm not, but sometimes men will say, you know, pick up your speed, or I can tell you how you might go faster. And I know they're doing it with the best intentions, but we just don't need that. We don't want to be
absolutely. And you know, just speaking about in favor of women doesn't make us against men either. We need to recognize that ourselves. Polly, I've got two things that I want to talk about. One, of course, because we are colorful. I saw your merchandise.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm going to buy some. Do you have some to show us?
Yeah. So when I was at Pride, I learned a lot about merchandise, and just, although we have a lovely logo, just putting your logo on things doesn't necessarily make them sell. You've got to design tops and T-shirts and merchandise that people actually want to wear, because we've all been on holiday, right? And we've all bought that Hard Rock Cafe T-shirt or something, and then come home and gone, oh, why did I buy that? Because I can't wear it again. So I'll show you it. So this is the one that sells the best for us. So I don't know if you can see it there.
I can see.
It says Proud Camper.
Just a little higher. Proud Camper. Yes, Proud Camper.
So that reflects the fact that a lot of the women that come to our festival come in camper vans. It's got the Progress flag on there, and obviously the word proud. I'll show you another one. This is, again, the Progress flag on there, but this is to reflect the fact that we do a lot of wild swimming.
Lovely.
So again, wild swimmer, Progress flag on there. And then this year as well, we are having the logo. You can see the logo here. We have a lovely logo that's a bright sun, and encompasses the word out and some of the love of nature that we have and the outdoors. We also have some merchandise that has that on it, including some sweatshirts, slightly like this. We've got some beanies, and we've thought about things this year that people would probably want to wear at the festival. So even though it's going to be gorgeous in the day, it can get chillier in the evening, so people will want to wear a sweatshirt, and they may want to wear a beanie when they come out of swimming. So yeah.
So do they buy it online in advance, or will they
both? So we for Pride season, we're doing a 20% discount off any merchandise on our site, and you can go there. If you go to www.outandwild.co.uk, at the top there's a little button that says merch. You can buy your merch from there. But we also sell a limited amount on site as well.
I love your mugs. That's the one that I'm going to buy.
Yeah, the camper mugs. Yeah,
they're brilliant. It's so cool. I mean, I can not just think of using it for tea and coffee, but also soup. You know, it's like so handy and cool. Very cool.
Yeah, we've really thought hard, and there's more that we want to do on merch, because some of the merch that I saw for queer women, I wouldn't wear it. And what we've done is said, would I wear that? That's what we've done with everything. Yeah. Would I wear it? Is it something that I'd wear even when I wasn't at the festival? And so that's been our kind of guiding principle.
Yeah. So Rahul is asking, can we buy in India?
Unfortunately not at the moment. Sorry, but we'll look into that. I guess if someone emailed us info@outandwild.co.uk and really wanted it, we could have a look at what we could do, but not at the moment. But we might want to take Out and Wild to other countries in the future. And I know I've had some good chats with Raga about where else could a festival that focuses on, particularly on queer women and those who are non-binary, go. And there are some other places that we might want to take it.
Yeah, Rahul, thank you for participating and asking these questions. And really, Rahul, for you and the other audience watching, Polly has huge plans. Polly and Rebecca are very aspirational and ambitious for Out and Wild Festival. I know for a fact that this is going to grow, like really grow, not just in the UK, but around the world. And India will also be on their list. I know that. And we've got the Himalayas, we've got the Ladakh, we've got...
Oh my God, I know.
We've got Maharashtra, which has beautiful mountains, the south, which has beautiful ranges.
If there's a country to do wellness, I've been to India, and I've been to Goa, and I've been to Kerala twice. if there's a country for wellness and that wants to celebrate identity in the full sense of the word and have beautiful food, then yeah.
Yes. So where to from here? What's next?
Well, we basically, I guess we're only in our second year, so we want to deliver this year, see what works. We want to do at least another year in Wales and see what happens there. We may continue to keep it in Wales, but we want to look at other places that we can take it. So we have a lot of people that come from London, and we may look at doing another festival elsewhere in the UK, maybe in September or something like that. Or we might do pop-up events that cover some of the different areas of the festival. So, for example, that I've been talking to a friend about doing an Out and Wild music and comedy night in London.
Wow.
We've talked about doing the wellness and workout area in London as well, where people who are women can go along and get involved in some of the wellness and workout activities that we do. So I think there's so many different options. What we probably want to do is, once we've done this festival, we've done the research and we've looked at the analytics, is just sit down and think, what's next? But what we are doing is our first ever kind of weekend retreat in September. So we're going to launch that at the festival, and we're going to offer places initially to those that went to the festival as a loyalty offer. We're going to do our first walking retreat, and we're taking over the whole of a hostel in Dartmoor to do that.
Oh, wow.
It has camping and camper vanning, and that will be a kind of walking and yoga retreat for 2 nights.
Excellent. So much needed. Polly, it's been exciting to talk to you. And I'm like, really, like I said, I'm like going to cry now that I can't go to your
I'll send you lots of
festival.
pictures, and definitely next year, Ragged, because I think, given your audience as well, one of the things we're really keen to do is open it up to people that come from different backgrounds, because we know not everybody grew up with a love of camping, and not everybody who come from places out, particularly kind of Southeast Asia or other continents, always want to camp, because it probably is something they haven't done before. And we want to introduce people to the fact that you can come and camp. It can be a really exciting experience, and just kind of open up the festival to different people. And also, we would love to work with you and anyone else that's on here at having different types of acts on, because this is an experience festival. It's an opportunity for people to experience different cultures as well. So we definitely want to do more there. So I know we talk anyway, and I know we work together anyway, but there's definitely opportunities for us to do more to make the festival kind of bridge some of the cultural gaps, as well as some of the other gaps that we have in the LGBT community.
I just have a random question before we move on. Are there snakes in Wales?
No. Well, there might be adders. The only real snakes you get in the UK, you get grass snakes, which are harmless. The only snake you get that in the UK that can be venomous or dangerous, but it's not life-threatening like you might get in India, is the adder. But I haven't seen one, so I don't think so.
That would be my biggest hesitation. But Polly, whatever you've said today, I think it's almost like a marketing 2.0 on curation. Basically, if anybody watching this wants to set up a festival, here it is. But don't set up your own festival. Just come to Polly. Polly will help you set it up.
Thank you.
Seriously, why would you want to set it up yourself?
But I think my lesson is, if there's something you really want to do and you're passionate about it, and you're doing it for the right reason, it's not just about making money, it's because you actually care about it, that will take you such a long way. And just start, obviously do some planning, but you can spend ages procrastinating and saying, is it the right time? Do I have the right experience? Once you press go and you tell people you're doing it, that momentum is just big. And I know you and I share that, Raga, for other projects. But for people that are listening, if there's a difference that you want to make in the queer community or in any other type of community, just start, because momentum will take you a long way.
Yeah, exactly. And, there are people available to give you support. And we always, one of the events that I was part of many, many years ago, Polly, which was a changing point in my own life, is when someone kept saying, this person kept getting up and saying from seats saying, but I'm sorry, I have financial issues. I'm sorry, I have children, but I'm sorry, you don't know what my life is. I can't do. And that person said, these are all your limitations that you have in your mind.
Yeah.
Try and shed them. Try and say, I have this, but I will do this. And suddenly that same person 3 months later wrote to us saying that they had left their marriage that was not working, they had started their own business, they had started exercising and looking after themselves. So it is the limiting beliefs that we carry. And I think you're a perfect example, Polly. And coming back to how we started this conversation, saying, why would you start this now at your age?
Why not? And
Yeah.
I have it. The thing I probably have less energy because we all do. But what I have is experience, and what I have is contact. So I often sit here and think, why didn't I start this 10 years ago? But 10 years ago, I didn't have the contacts or the experience that I have now. So there's you'll always be lacking something. You'll always, as you said, you'll always have positives. But this has taught me so much about following your dreams and following your passion is never a bad thing, even if it fails. Even if we never do any more, I'm going to touch wood when I say this.
Yes.
Just because I've done it has given me, I've learned so much from it. So it's not about whether it's successful or unsuccessful. It's about sometimes just following your passion and doing something, and you'll learn so much along the way.
It is absolutely true. Every bit that you said is true. And this thing that I keep talking about age, and I'm sorry about that, because I actually wanted to make a comment that age is really just a number.
Yeah.
Today is the best age to start anything. And I feel I'm far, far better now at this age than I was maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago. The only thing I don't have is the youth or the knowledge that maybe I will have another 30, 40, 50 years to live. But otherwise, it's a perfect time to start. And
any times, the perfect time to start is always, I think there's someone that said this on LinkedIn, the perfect time to start is today, not tomorrow, and not to wish you'd started yesterday. It's always today. And living in the moment, I've talked about this being a wellness festival. Being in the moment and living in the moment is so important for all of us, whether that's going to a festival and actually just being there and not having to worry about other things that are happening at home, or whether that is just saying, today I'm going to get on with something rather than think I could do it tomorrow, or I wish I'd done it yesterday.
Wow. Polly, before we end, one last question for you. So year 2, 600 people. I know you work very, very long hours, and I won't even put a number to it. I'm sure it is over 20 hours a day. Is it being worth it? Is it fulfilling?
It is fulfilling. Sometimes there are days when things don't quite right that I find it very hard. But yes, it is. We've grown. We don't want to be a huge festival. Next year, if we're lucky enough to run it again, we'll have sort of 800-900 people rather than the 600-700. But the intimacy is important. If it becomes really big, it loses that intimacy. So we'll just make it hopefully a bit more exclusive. We'll tinker with the things that weren't quite right. But yes, I would say definitely it's been worth it. There's days when, gosh, with everything in life, there's days when you think, I wish not, or this is driving me mad. But yes, it has. I've learned so much from it. I've grown from it personally and professionally. I've met some amazing people. And what makes the weekend good, I'm so busy at the weekend, I can't tell you, and so is Becky, is the people that come up to us and just hug us and say thank you. And that's all you need sometimes.
That's it. That's all you need. But thank you, Polly, for fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Always a pleasure.
And it's so good. I mean, I think most of us don't really know the work that goes on behind, and the kind of issues you have to deal with, or the kind of safety measures that you have really worked hard to put in place. That's also important, right, to know. Because I would never want to go anywhere where I felt even 1% of doubt. But in your festival, I really feel that I'm going to miss out.
Yeah, we've worked really hard to make sure it's not just a fun safe, but it's a safe, fun place. It's a safe and supportive space.
So those I don't know whether you have tickets left, but if there are, if people are interested,
very few. But if you're interested in knowing more about Out and Wild next year, or some of the other retreats or events that we're going to do, just come and sign up, and then you won't miss out.
Or if anybody wants to partner, I mean, there are so many products that women can do with, and the non-binary as well can do with. Please write to Polly. Polly, what's your email address, if I may ask?
The best email address to send it to is info@outandwild.co.uk, and then it will get seen by Becky or myself. So yeah.
I'm just writing it down, info@outandwild.co.uk.
Yeah.
Here it is for those who want to reach out. And Polly, thank you very much. Sadly, I have to end this conversation. It's nearly that time.
Been a pleasure.
But thank you. And for those watching, thank you very much, the audience. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel to be notified of such talks. Thank you to our partners, Lotus Visual, digital partners, Digital Fix, and our community partner, the Gay Indian Network UK. And of course, thank you, Nicola, the producer of the Views Room, and for doing fabulous work at the back end. And if you wish to take part or you have any feedback to share, please do write to us at theviewsroom@gmail.com. And we will see you soon. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.